Good day, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on strengthening social justice, a precursor for ensuring the rights of minorities in South Asia, organized by South Asia Research Institute for Minorities. My name is Rimsha Shahid, and I will be your host for this session. In today's world, the issue of social justice has become more important than ever before. As you might be aware that with the rise of various social, economic, and political challenges, it is crucial that we promote and ensure equality for all, regardless of their ethnicity, religion, gender, or socio-economic status. In South Asia, the issue of minority rights is a major concern, and it is imperative that we address this issue by strengthening social justice. Throughout this webinar, we will be discussing the importance of social justice in the context of minority rights in South Asia. We will hear from our experts in the field who will share their knowledge and experience, and we will have the opportunity to learn from their insights and perspectives. Our aim for this webinar is to not only create awareness about this issue, but also to provide practical solutions that can be implemented in order to ensure that the rights of minorities are protected and respected. We hope that by the end of this session, we will have a better understanding of the importance of social justice in promoting and ensuring minority rights in the very region. So without further delay, let's get started with our first speaker, Mr. D.V. Sagar. He is a well-known social activist and human rights advocate who has dedicated his life to promoting the cause of Dalit rights around the world. He is the founder and president of the International Commission for Dalit Rights, an organization that seeks to raise awareness about the plight of Dalits and advocate for their rights on a global scale. Mr. Sagar has been instrumental in pursuing for policy changes and social reform that aim to end discrimination and violence against Dalits. With over 20 years of experience, Mr. Sagar brings substantial expertise in leading advocacy, litigation, governance, and public services efforts, both at national and international levels. He has given public speeches, lectures, and interviews to news media, including the Associated Press and Bloomberg Law. He has written articles and reports and provided expert commentary on public policies as well. So unfortunately, due to conflicting time zones as he resides in USA, Mr. Sagar was unable to join us live, but he has provided us with a pre-recorded message. I will now request the host to play the message, please.
Thank you so much, Rimsha, having me. I'm pleased to be part of your event. So everywhere you can see the systematic barriers against the minorities. And that is not just a kind of practical level, but also the political level, institutional level, and governance level. So I believe that it is a kind of very much strong wall against the minorities. And I found a very interesting is that the governance systems is designed to suppress and rule the minority by dividing their power of will and franchising them. Sorry for that. And having them in a different, the locations in terms of location in not just geographical, but also the power, resource, education level. So that is something is a challenge for minorities. And I believe that that's where the social resiliency comes, right? So to fight against this systematic barriers. I believe inequality, injustice is real. And even in the economic justice, the justice system itself, and also the most recently, the climate justice, all these justice systems are not there yet to break this social barrier. Any strategy that is start from social justice or inclusion or diversities, those terms should be defined and refined by minority themselves. It should not come from the top, saying that, okay, this is social justice for you. I have $20 for you. I'm giving to you as a social justice is your share of social fear. That is not a social justice. Social justice should come from the victim or social minorities group themselves should say, I am empowered. Social justice relate with the empowerment. It's relate with the power, sure, the idea of the governance and representation. So I believe that we should be able, as a minority activist and advocate, to define what is social justice mean for a kind of minority community on the ground, whether he or she is able to provide the food on table to their children or not, or their children or any minorities family are whether they are able to send their children at a school or not, or whether they are able to get the rightful kind of social treatment or access on the institutions for the justice or rule of law or resources in order to develop their perspective and access into the society with the dignified life, right? So those are the things I believe. This is a time to redefine this term in terms of social justice, how you define the social justice. If you ask me, that could be a different meaning. But if you ask who is surviving day-to-day life on the ground, yes, he may say differently. And we need to adopt that definition of social justice, or we need to adopt that definition of equity, social equity, right? We are talking more about the social equality. Equality is there, but to ensuring their, prospect. But equity is more important today because having a equal share of resource, not only for the, to run their the family, but also represent in the society, represent in the governance system, represent in the policy making system, and also exclusions. So I believe that when we just talk about social justice. So we need to redefine the meaning of social justice, meaning of the equity, and meaning of the inclusion for minority. If you could see currently in a political scenario or power sharing scenario in South Asian nation, I see that inclusion has been social inclusion or political inclusion has been misused, meaning that this inclusion should lift off the voice of minority group, but is lifting the voice of so-called politician to ensure their maximum access in the political system by misusing inclusive framework. So that's why it is a time to reframe it and redefine it. And this term should not just a term, it is a living thing for minorities. When they are not owning this, justice system, or they are not owning the inclusion or equity system within their, lifestyle, then it won't make any difference for minority. That's what I believe.
I truly second the opinions, the views presented by Mr. Sagar, as he said that to ensure the rights of minorities, it is important to prioritize equity over equality. And only through this approach, through this means, we can recognize the different groups face different challenges and barriers to accessing rights and opportunities. So I really appreciate the efforts of Mr. Sagar and the opinions he presented in our webinar. I will now move on to our second speaker, Mr. Leslie Martin. Leslie Martin is a well-known Dalit human rights activist in India. He has been associated with several prominent organizations, including the National Campaign on Dalits' Rights in New Delhi and the Dalit Bahujan Shramik Union of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh states. With a strong commitment to social justice and equality, Mr. Martin has worked to raise awareness about the challenges faced by Dalits and to advocate for their rights. He has also been involved in efforts to empower Dalit communities, particularly through grassroots level organization that works on issues related to children's rights and education. His work as a Dalit rights activist has had a significant impact on the fight for social justice and equality in India. Mr. Leslie Martin, thank you for joining us today. I would like to invite you to take the floor and proceed with the presentation. Thank you.
First of all, let me congratulate you, people, the organization, for coming out with this wonderful webinar um, on Social Justice Day, International Social Justice Day. And as far I am concerned, now we are at a time where we have to normalize things. That is, now you have introduced me as an activist. But we have to normalize that activism as a normal thing after the pandemic, especially after the pandemic, and the way things are happening to the Dalit minorities, minorities in different countries, and that we have to keep it in mind. It's a good thing that we had the pandemic where it could impact the world, each and every constituent people and also communities. So the change that we need to look at this point of time is that how do we bring in the voices that are being marginalized even more with authoritarian leadership at the helm of affairs. As the UN Special Rapporteur on minorities' rights was expressing, it is like a tsunami. The violence, the situation of minorities in different countries is like a tsunami. Happening is like tsunami. So we need to look at what we have to do as we take it as a disaster. What are the things that can be done by different communities to bring in the aspect of equity into the fore? The challenge is now for the equity. Equality is being also sidelined because as the earlier person was sharing that with inclusion, they're saying that equality is there, whereas it's misguided. But now we have to project, we have to look at it. How do we bring in the circulation or the topic or the voices of equity with gender reconciliation? Equity with gender reconciliation. So we need to have some kind of a process in which different communities can bring out their voices and reconcile with each other. That is the kind of pre-disaster management that I feel that should be happening now at this site all over the world, especially in South Asia. Especially if I take it from the Indian point of view, the way the minorities are being bullied institutionally being bullied, institutionally being marginalized, institutionally being threatened, institutionally being ignoring the violence that is happening among the Dalits and the minorities, Christians and Muslims, especially in UP, in states like UP and all. How they are normalizing those kind of violence against minorities is something that the authoritarian government is something that which we should be very much worried about, and how we should bring in the voice of equity with gender reconciliation into the fore is also a challenge for us because we are defending the human rights. We are defending the social justice that has to happen. that has to happen in South Asia, especially in Pakistan or in Bangladesh or in India, etc. So with this aspect, I would like to bring in the kind of leaders that we need to focus, the kind of community action that needs to take place. Maybe we need to have look at it at the governance level, at the local governance level. The issues are being brought out and being resolved through the local governance system before anyone, before the state or the UN bodies intervene, because the local governance systems should be strengthened, or people have to get organized, as Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has put it as his last words: educate, agitate, and organize. Organization is the most important aspect that needs to happen at this hour, because a lot of groups are organizing at ground level, which are not being visible. The media, majority, even the social media, and the kind of bullying is dominated by the for minorities in the social media is also something that which is being normalized in these circumstances. So we need to look at the pandemic, how it has impacted, and the kind of issues of the marginalized communities, minorities that has come up very, very visibly, and there was a targeted institutional attack on them by the different authoritarian regimes that are existing in the countries, and how people still started raising their voices, and trying to visualize themselves at different levels or wherever it is possible for them to do. So that we need to capture. Those voices we need to capture, and we need to put it a broader framework for the social justice day. That from this day onwards, we will start organizing these different groups that are getting organized, asserting themselves for social justice. So we need to bring it up, and we need to develop kind of programs that which can enable the local level leadership to challenge the systems that are institutionally oppressing them. So this is the kind of movement that I am trying to build at local level with my own community, and even the international donors also, the funding agencies also have to shift their focus. They are in a dilemma because now pandemic has happened. There have been funding institutions, very large institutions, but issues are remaining still, or issues have flared up after the pandemic. So where do we have to chip in? Where do we have to chip in the funding? That's the dilemma that the international donors funding agencies are having. Where if we fund that, it will reach the community directly, where it will help the community raise up to their mark, where it will raise up the issues of equity, in a sense that in the letter and spirit. So that is kind of a change that is also happening at funding agencies. That also we need to observe, and how we have to capture those funding agencies to support the local initiatives that are primarily working for social justice in their community. With this, I thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and I hope it was an enriching experience for you listening to. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Martin. I must say that you have really comprehensively discussed and presented your views. And as you said, that it is really important to listen to the voices and experiences of minority communities and to involve them in decision-making processes. And as you also highlighted that to achieve equity is at the helm of governments and leaders' discretion, as achieving equity requires a proactive and intentional approach to addressing systematic inequalities and creating a more just and inclusive society. So, yes, we only can hope that concerned authorities must take this reform under consideration on a priority basis. I will now proceed with our third speaker, Mr. Krishan Sharma. Krishan Sharma is a well-known community leader and religious figure in Pakistan, serving as the chairman of the Pakistan Hindu Mandir Management Committee in Karachi, Pakistan. As a prominent member of the Hindu community in Pakistan, he has been actively involved in promoting interfaith harmony and advocating for the rights of minority communities in the country. As the head of the Mandir Management Committee, Mr. Sharma has played a vital role in the preservation and promotion of Hindu culture and traditions in Pakistan, working to ensure that the rights of the Hindu community are protected and respected. With his deep knowledge of the history and practices of the Hindu religion, he has become a respected voice within the community and has been instrumental in advocating and advancing the cause of minority rights in the country. Mr. Krishan Sharma, thank you for being a part of this webinar today. You may now proceed.
Thank you for your time and compliment. This is a very important opportunity which you provided us to share our views on the status of the religious minorities in South Asia. And I heard two speakers and their experiences, their suggestions, their challenges. So as far as Pakistan is concerned, we have 75 years of independence. And as you know all, that was a big migration in the human history, which we have faced in 1947. So after inception of Pakistan, we have faced, I'm talking about the Hindu population in Pakistan, we have faced caste-based discrimination in Pakistan because it was framed by the Hindu culture. So ultimately, the majority of the Hindu population in Pakistan was caste-based people like scheduled caste, and it was declared by the state that these castes will be considered as a scheduled caste, and the state will take some actions to mainstream them as a nation. So it was a very tiring job, and our seniors, different organizations have played a role to bring them and try to mainstream them, and they provided strength to their voices. As my friend Sagar said, the different barriers in our society, the socially excluded people are facing at governance level, at policy level, at social level. So ultimately, Pakistan is also the part of this subcontinent. So the pain, the cry is same. The state response, the social response matters. In our side, in Pakistan, more than 5 million Hindus are living in Pakistan at the moment. And more than 92% of them belongs to scheduled castes. They have less voice, less access to the employment, to their political representation. They are counting in census. These are barriers. And because of these barriers, this portion of the society is suffering. So at present, Pakistan government, especially, I must appreciate the efforts of the government. They have introduced the protection guarantees in the Constitution of 1973. There is no acceptance on the discrimination on the basis of caste, creed, language, and religion. So we are enjoying the right of equal citizen in Pakistan. So it's a player, it's a blessing for us that the state barriers are less, but social barriers are more powerful. As you know, the South Asia is a different area in the world where if we are taking example of Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, and some other countries, including Pakistan, the religious extremism is rising in different shapes. Like when Pakistan, when the partition was made, the India was declared as a secular state. But what is happening at the moment in India with Dalits, with other religious minorities, that the media is reporting it, those all things. Same in Pakistan when the area of General Zia regime, we were faced a religious extremism. When the religious extremism is rising, ultimately the space for religious minorities is shrinking. It's a vice versa. So at the present, Pakistan government and our other organizations played very important role, and they are taking some affirmative actions as the religious minorities can mainstream and can enjoy all those privileges and rights which the Muslim population is enjoying. So it's very a good opportunity for religious minorities in Pakistan. One more protection in Pakistan is ensured, that is Islamic society. As for Islamic society, as and the direction of the Quran Pak, the religious minorities are protected. So there is no force in sense like in media. Sorry, we have always observed that the media is taking the cases of conversion, the forced conversion, the cases of blasphemy. These all are things are happening everywhere. But in Pakistan case, the media is and the other forces are propaganda and doing all international forums against Pakistan and developing bad image for us. But on the ground, it's not the action that the things are going on, but not that way, which we are portraying at international forums and media. Because the state is standing behind us. State institutions are giving us protection, promotion, and we are the partner in development, in economic prosperity of the country, in nation building. So many people from our Hindu communities are serving in Pakistan at a top level, like they are judges, they are in army even, they are in social services, they are in foreign services. So there is no discrimination like other areas. So this is a good forum to exchange our views on the sufferings, on the issues, as we can formulate, we can rephrase the issue and take some actions, recommendations for South Asia level arrangements, as we can meet together, we will sit together, and we will propose and recommend some more, I must say, the possibilities as we can save this population, which is religiously in size small. So this is a good opportunity for me to hear all friends and contribute from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sharma, for your views. And I am really thrilled to hear your positive views about Pakistan and about Hindu communities not being discriminated in the country in the very way. As you discussed about social barriers, I think To address the root causes of inequality and social injustices, the concerned authorities also should work on policy changes like increased education and awareness and a shift in societal values towards inclusivity and social justice. I believe that by working towards these reforms, we can help to ensure that all members of society have access to the resources and opportunities they need to thrive, not within Pakistan, India, or Bangladesh, but in the whole world, obviously. So, yeah, moving ahead towards our last speaker. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Syed Khuram Mehdi. Dr. Khuram is a renowned academic, criminologist, investigative psychologist, and social activist for minority rights. He has contributed his expertise in policy and communications to promote the cause of minority rights in the region. Through his engagement with multilateral non-governmental organizations, Dr. Khurram plays a crucial role in advocating for the rights of minority communities, creating awareness about the issues they face, and campaigning for policy changes that can bring about positive change. His commitment to advancing the cause of human rights and promoting social justice in South Asia has made him a prominent figure in the field, and his contributions continue to have a significant impact on the lives of marginalized communities in the region. Dr. Khurram, I appreciate your presence in this webinar today. The floor is all yours. Please proceed.
Thank you, Rimsha. Honorable speakers, Mr. D.V. Sagar, Mr. Leslie Martin, Mr. Krishan Sharma, and the respected audience. Warm regard to all of you from my side. It is an honor and a privilege to be invited to participate in this webinar. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk about the rights of minorities in South Asia. So, every nation in the region ensures the safety and well-being of its citizens, and minorities are included here. Nonetheless, there is a disproportionate amount of physical violence and denial of the right to life against members of minority communities throughout the region. When minorities are denied civil and political rights, they also suffer disproportionately. So, three main tendencies can be identified. The main cause of violence against minorities is state failure, or more specifically, the state's capacity to safeguard minority populations against violence committed by individuals. Given that the police are unable to defend minorities who are at risk from attacks by non-state actors, most often the militant arms of fundamentalist group movements and individuals and group acts of violence, and that the courts are unable to hold the perpetrators accountable. This is the failure on the part of the state in its primary responsibility to protect. So, in these circumstances, each state is either unable to adequately safeguard minorities against non-state actors or are already understaffed to do so. Consider the recent violence committed by Buddhist nationalist organizations like Bodhu Balasina and Sinhala Ravaya. Sinhala Ravaya against the Muslims and Tamils in Sri Lanka, and by the Bajrang Dal, Shiv Sena, and other Hindu right-wing organizations associated with the RSS in India. In addition to insufficient governmental capacity, violence against minorities also reflect a weak rule of law, notably the selective implementation of the laws by state institutions that restrict minorities' access to justice and protection under the law. One component of this lax rule of law is the police and security services. Their poor efforts to prevent anti-minority violence, whether targeted at specific people or the entire community, from erupting. Once it has, there lacks efforts to quell it. Equally problematic are the other facets of the criminal justice system, such as how crimes are reported, how they are investigated, and how offenders are prosecuted, particularly when they involve the member of minority groups. Uh, they are effectively depriving them of their constitutional right to equal protection under the law. So, in most instances, this selective application of the law reflect collusion between state actors and anti-minority parties, leading to a systematic loss of minority rights to equal citizenship. This selective application of the law is much more than just a lack of protection. These can take a variety of shapes, from state actors abdicating their duties and allowing anti-minority groups to take over the state institutions and use them against minorities in their worst form, to state actors being influenced by majoritarian anti-minority ideologies and biases in carrying out their responsibilities. A prominent example of the former is the widespread normalization of biased policing and justice delivery in South Asia, where pogroms and genocides have been a common occurrence in the region's post-colonial history. In some instances, the issue is not so much with the lax enforcement of the law as it is with law itself. It contains the seeds of violence towards minority populations. So rules and regulations like those governing vested properties in Bangladesh and those prohibiting the cow slaughter and conversion in India, they are the two mere examples of laws that, depending on how they are implemented, give biased state actors working in concert with private anti-minority groups the chance to commit violence against weak member of the minority groups. So, lastly, the instances where the state blatantly denies member of minority groups the right to live, human rights violation include arbitrary arrest, tortures, deaths in custody, extrajudicial executions, staged encounters, and enforced disappearances. They are common in the area, affecting minorities disproportionately. So a large number of this occur in the context of nationalistic battles, such as those in Kashmir, the northeast of India, and Sri Lanka's fight against Tamils, and in the past in the Chittagong hill tracts in Bangladesh, besides against Maoists in Nepal. The national security has been used as a justification for widespread violence of the right to life throughout the worldwide war on terror, with minorities once again bearing the brunt of these abuses. Systematic violations are based on strict extraordinary laws that are state created to combat anti-state violence in both situations. Here we can see the Armed Forces Special Power Act 1958, 1990, the Jammu and Kashmir Public Safety Act, and the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act in India. The Public Security Ordinance 1947, the Prevention of Terrorism Act 1979, and the Emergency Regulation 2000 and 2005, and the Nepal Public Security Act 1989. Yes, there is a very long list. And the Anti-State Crimes and Penalties Act 1989 in Sri Lanka, and the Public Security 1989, and the Anti-State Crime and Penalties State Impunity, which includes the systematic denial of justice, whether legal or compensatory, as well as the violation of due process, is a significant component in this case. So, last but not least, I would like to make few suggestions for strengthening the social justice. So, number one, to ensure the promotion and preservation of the rights of minorities, it is very important to ensure that the legal, socio-economic, and political framework support the mainstreaming and advancement of minorities communities. Secondly, a framework for minority rights that is endorsed by the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the Declaration on the Rights of Persons belonging to national or ethnic, religious, and linguistic minorities, and the Declaration on the Elimination of all forms of intolerance and of discrimination based on religion or beliefs must be implemented. Moreover, the stark Minority Rights Charter to safeguard the rights and liberties of religion in South Asia should be adopted by all states. I think South Asia minority right mechanism to be established, including a regional code on human rights, parliamentary and people's forum, and ensure the participation of citizen and vibrant civil society of South Asia in the process. Lastly, a regional minority rights commission may also be formed to ensure the coordination and cooperation between states agencies who are responsible for the protection and promotion of the minority rights. In the end, I would like to acknowledge the efforts of SARIM in allowing minority communities to air their problems through social media and a dedicated website devoted to minority issues, especially when they are ignored by the mainstream media. I kindly ask the civil society organizations in the region to defend social media platforms against the unwarranted regulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Khuram. I really appreciate your textual discussion, and I really believe that the facts you have presented have literally highlighted that when law enforcing agencies fail to adequately address violation against minorities, it can have serious consequences for the affected communities. It can lead to a lack of trust and confidence in the justice system, further marginalizing and sense of powerlessness among those who have been victimized. So I truly value the suggestions you have presented and hope that these suggestions must be concerned. To add one more thing in your suggestion, I believe that it's important to engage and involve minority community in efforts to improve accountability and address violation. I think this can help to build trust and confidence in the justice system. And now I would like to invite Ms. Sumbul Yousuf, who is the Associate Project Director of SARIM, to share her concluding remarks with us. You may now proceed, Ms. Sumbul.
Thank you, Rimsha. First of all, we extend our deep gratitude to all the participants of the webinar that made this event valuable and successful. Since the topic is so important and pertinent, I would like to say that social justice is such an important concept in terms of protecting human rights that it has become akin to it. In terms of protection of minority rights, maintaining social justice through promoting equity, fairness, and inclusion in providing rights and opportunities are a primary prerequisite. In a webinar hosted by SARIM last month, the speakers talked about constitutional rights for minorities. However, all agreed that without maintaining social justice, constitutional rights fail to get implemented and simply stay on paper. Thus, we initiated today's discussion. To promote social justice, it is also a prerequisite to identify the structural and systematic factors that create injustices on social level and bar the minority groups from having equal access to rights and opportunities. Only then we can work towards devising ways to dismantle those systems and structure of injustice. I'm thankful to DB Sagar, who participated in the event by pointing out the same factor about the systematic barriers on a practical, constitutional, social level against minorities. He rightfully pointed out that to fight against this, we need an inclusive and bottom-up solution which encompasses representation and empowerment for the marginalized communities. He also highlighted that in South Asia, the policies of inclusions are also misused politically. I'm thankful to Mr. Leslie Martin from India, who made a very valuable contribution to the topic. He pointed out that three important points: that it is important to bring out voices of the marginalized communities under regimes that have authoritarian tendencies. It is also important to bring together the communities and to reconcile all the different voices, and also to bring out solutions that are based on equity. He also emphasized the importance of community organizing and their leaders. He pointed out that minorities are being bullied not only in real spaces, but also on social media, and it is being normalized. What he emphasized, moreover, is that what we need to change is to bring together the communities, which is very important, I think, Leslie Martin. Mr. Krishan Sharma from Pakistan brought about a historic perspective and pointed out that Hindus from the Pakistani community have been facing caste-based discrimination because of the historical factors. And he appreciated the state's role in addressing the issues that cause a systematic barrier for the lower caste Hindus in their effective participation in social political processes. He pointed out that not so much as state is a factor here, but social barriers are stronger and more powerful in terms of creating discrimination. He pointed out that religious extremism is increasing all over in South Asia, and Pakistan also faced religious extremism at a certain point of time, but the state is working effectively towards making things better, and the law protects the minorities. So what makes it different the case in Pakistan, although like all minorities in South Asia, they face systematic discrimination, the state still tries to stand behind the minorities. Thank you, Krishan Sharma. Dr. Khuram made a very valuable contribution in terms of providing a very realistic account of the main causes of systematic discrimination against minorities. He pointed out that the main cause for violence against minorities is the state's incapability to provide protection and the justice system's failure to hold the perpetrators to account. Minorities only become an easy target of non-state actors because of this incapability. He pointed to the recent cases of violence against minorities in Sri Lanka and India as an identification of lack of rule of law. Not only that, but also sometimes he pointed out that the law itself, as opposed to the problem of law implementation, is the problem, as the law contains the seed of bias against minorities and provides for the ways to create discrimination against minorities. So he suggested that the legal and political framework for the minority protection should be in line with the social justice parameters. The laws should also be in line with the international regimes on human rights. He also proposed a SARC level declaration for the protection of minorities. He proposed a minority rights commission that can be formed on regional or global level. And I would second this opinion that international cooperation on matters of human rights and specifically of minority rights is very important and can play a very important role in in making the states accountable for their role in protection of minorities. So I'm again deeply grateful to all the guests that made our webinar successful today and for contributing to this important topic. Thank you. Over to you, Rimsha.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sumbul, for beautifully summarizing all the key points presented by our speakers. As we come to the end of this webinar, I would like to take a moment to express our gratitude to our distinguished speakers for sharing their valuable insights and experiences on the significance of social justice. Your presentations have been thought-provoking and insightful, and we are grateful for your time and expertise. Before I conclude, I would like to remind you that a recording of this webinar will be available in our official YouTube and Twitter handles, as well as on our website as well, the day ahead. Please feel free to share this with your colleagues and peers who might be interested in the topic. I would also like to extend my thanks to the team who has worked behind the scenes to make this webinar a success. Once again, thank you all for being a part of this webinar, and we look forward to your continued participation in our future events. Goodbye and have a great day. Thank you so much for being with us.